This is the fastest hydrogen-fueled car ever built. Well, it will be when it actually runs. This is the JCB Hidromax, a brand new speed record car from the British company. JCB is of course best known for its diggers and industrial machinery, but a couple of decades ago it went out and broke the land speed record for diesel cars with the JCB Dieselmax car, hitting 356 miles an hour on one run. The car was then believed to be capable of going faster, but the tyres it was using were not rated for speeds above that, so the record attempts had to stop. And there's a whole video on that car on this channel. Now that car was built to showcase JCB's diesel engine technology, as it had started making its own engines for the first time, and the story with this new car is pretty similar. JCB wants to showcase its hydrogen engine technology, so what better way to do it than go in search of speed records? Again. The stated aim of the car is to match or beat the Dieselmax speeds to prove that hydrogen is an alternative to conventional diesel engines. It also helps promote the company's new facilities in the USA, hence the US flag joining the British flag on the tail fin of the car. JCB has invested heavily in hydrogen combustion engine technology, and it's starting to roll out a range of its own products fueled by hydrogen and powered by its own engines, and those are the exact same engines being used on the new Hidromax car. At a glance, the car may look very similar to the old Dieselmax, a long, thin yellow and black shape, and while there's real conceptual carryover from the 2006 car, there really is no carryover of components at all, well, beyond the driver, and the car is actually really quite different. It was unveiled in the form of a show car at JCB's factory in Staffordshire, England, after about a year's development in secret. In fact, the development of the car was kept so secret that even some of the staff working on it didn't actually know what they were working on. The new car is longer than the old car, with a 560mm extension to the rear bodywork, which is also slightly tighter than it was on the Dieselmax, and this was mostly done for aerodynamic reasons and drag reduction. Under the main tail fin, there's a subtle ventral strake, which apparently offers a notable aerodynamic gain. While some of the promotional material issued around the announcement of the Hidromax car suggests that the car was developed in a wind tunnel, I think it's pretty clear that it was designed in CFD. This is a very long car, and even a half-scale wind tunnel model would struggle to fit in the working sections of most facilities, and most wind tunnels in motorsport with rolling roads are not set up for 300 plus mph anyway, so CFD really is a better tool in this situation. One of the key factors that restricted the Dieselmax to 350 miles an hour, as I mentioned, was its tyres, and they weren't rated to go any faster than that in 2006. However, everybody believed that the Dieselmax actually could have gone a lot faster, and private entries at Bonneville would have taken them faster, but as a works entry, JCB just wasn't willing to take the risk. It was its own brand on the side of the car after all. So working with Goodyear, JCB has commissioned an all-new tyre which has a much higher speed rating. However, these new tyres were found to grow slightly more than the old tyres at high speed, meaning that the front wheel arches had to be redesigned and enlarged somewhat as a result. Developing these new tyres saw JCB quietly attending a facility in the USA used by the military aviation industry when developing tyres for secret government projects. And as a result of this testing, JCB now has more than 30 sets of the new tyres, enough for about 30 high-speed runs plus testing, which it thinks is more than enough. But JCB expects to get through a set of tyres for every single run, and on a two-way FIA record run, it would have to change the tyres after each leg of that run, so those tyres will get used up pretty quickly. Looking around the front of the car, you can see some elements of the original Dieselmax concept carry through. The relatively wide track for the car and the overall nose shape are clear to see. The car features a slightly raised nose tip as well, like the Dieselmax did, but the Hidromax nose is sharper and more squared off than it was on the older car, and the team actually considered 3 separate variants of nose design and then settled on this one. Under the nose, however, the shape of the car features the same concept as the Dieselmax did, those sculpted channels designed to extract salt from underneath the bodywork of the car, as it's believed that the salt creates substantial aerodynamic drag underneath the bodywork, and these salt spray extractors, which fire the salt out along the sides of the car, are believed to be a major advantage of the Dieselmax and now Hidromax concept. You may also notice a distinct lack of cooling inlets on the car. Again, like the Dieselmax, the Hidromax uses tanks full of ice to cool the engines and the other underbody components. It's a technique dating back to the 20th century speed record cars of Reed Railton. One tank is located on the car inside the nose structure, while the other is located in the hump in the bodywork behind the driver. 250 kilograms of ice is required for every single run, and the tanks need to be drained of the now warm water at the end of each run and then refilled with ice ahead of the next run. And on a two-way run, that has to be done again at the end of each leg. Overall, the aerodynamic drag of the Hidromax is about 10% lower than it was on the Dieselmax, and that is a key figure we'll come back to. Underneath the bodywork, there is still a steel frame chassis like the Dieselmax, but it's a brand new chassis. The original Dieselmax chassis remains in the workshop of the company building, while a show car sits in its private museum. When you look under the bodywork of the Hidromax chassis, the differences between the Dieselmax chassis, which you can see here, with its rather heavy-duty steel lattice chassis, and the Hidromax chassis, which you can see here, are absolutely obvious. The new car is 10% lighter, and you can really see why. The chassis is much more like that of a conventional racing car and uses much thinner tubing and less tubing overall. As was the case with the Dieselmax, the driver Andy Green will sit in a composite monocoque sub-chassis with a drag racing style steel roll cage over his head. That's a regulatory requirement of SCTA. The cockpit itself, though, sits 450mm further forward than it did on the old car, a slightly more central location. The windscreen itself is a little bit more sculpted as well to minimise drag, and the hydrogen tanks sit just behind the carbon fibre sub-chassis, as you can see here. Of course, the core of the car, and the whole focus of the project in fact, is its engines. The Hidromax is a twin-engine design. One engine is mounted behind the driver and the other in front. And the two engines are quite an interesting choice. Firstly, these are not diesel engines, which is quite unusual when you think about JCB's product range, but they're based on the production JCB 448 ABH2 engine, a 4.8-litre inline four-cylinder spark ignition with port injection hydrogen engine. While the JCB Dieselmax was built to highlight JCB releasing an engine of its own design and manufacture for the first time, the Hidromax is similar in that it highlights JCB's first spark ignition engine, and of course that engine happens to be running on gaseous hydrogen. During the development of the production engine, JCB actually turned to the motorsport industry in the UK, and the initial 448 prototype hydrogen engine was fitted with spark plugs designed for a Le Mans 24 Hours engine. They didn't say which engine it was, and those spark plugs worked really well for 24 hours. I guess that they met the design specification of their original task then. JCB's fastest tractor record attempt, which I kind of felt was a bit of a publicity stunt to follow up the Dieselmax but on a smaller budget and lower ambition, that actually informed the design of the hydrogen engine's turbocharger, because the sizing of it was really built on lessons from that record attempt. And it shows actually that these speed record attempts are actually more than just publicity stunts, and there's a real transfer of ideas from the motorsport projects and the speed records to the production vehicles. However, the new JCB hydrogen engines only put out something like 75 to 120 brake horsepower in basic trim, basically the same as the production diesel engines and perfectly adequate for what they're designed for, but not nearly enough to break any speed records. So the engines for the new Hidromax car are being extensively rebuilt to suit the demands of breaking speed records. JCB has kept the development of the engines for the record-breaking car quite secret for now, so the images you see here are all of the production engine. While the record engines retain the standard production crankshaft and cylinder block, the block has been overboard to take the capacity up to 5 litres, while the pistons and rods have of course been redesigned. I suspect the compression ratio has also been increased a little, while the maximum engine speed has been increased to over 4,000 RPM. In terms of the induction system, the car is fitted with a single-stage motorsport turbocharger to help deal with running at the high altitude of the Bonneville salt flats, while the charge air cooler is a 3D printed design which the Hidromax team seem to be very proud of, but initially seemed quite reluctant to reveal. Hopefully we'll get back to that in future. Overall, the two engines fitted to the car, rebuilt to their 5-litre capacity, produce about 800 brake horsepower each, a total of 1600 brake horsepower, a touch more than the original Dieselmax car had. Notably, in the Hidromax, the engines are laid on their side, inside the chassis, with the front engine having its cylinder head to the left of the chassis and driving the front wheels via a gearbox in front of it, and the rear engine having its cylinder head to the right of the chassis and driving the rear wheels via a gearbox behind it. They are also notably mounted further apart than the engines were in the Dieselmax chassis, which the team feel improves stability in a straight line. Notably, the slightly unusual horizontal mounting plate on the Dieselmax car has been replaced by a conventional vertical bulkhead in the Hidromax. The wheels are driven by bespoke 6-speed sequential transmissions from Xtrac, which have seamless electronically actuated shifting. Spools are used at both the front and the rear axle rather than conventional differentials, while the clutches used on both gearboxes are surprisingly taken from a JCB digger, as motorsport clutches would not be up to the required loads of the speed record car. Having the engines laid down like this means that when the dry sump lubrication system was designed for the record engines, it had to be really worked quite carefully to ensure proper oil flows on the engine when installed like this. Crucially, the two engines need to be balanced in terms of their output, something that did prove to be a bit challenging on the original Dieselmax car, and partly for that reason, the engine inlet layout has been revised significantly. On the original Dieselmax car, the front engine was fed by a duct in the tip of the nose, and the rear engine was fed by a snorkel on one side of the car. But this did result in a really uneven flow to the engine, and also that big snorkel caused a slightly offset aerodynamic drag characteristic, which at high speeds became very apparent. So on the new car, both engines are fed by NACA-style ducts on the bodywork, a lower drag solution. The front inlet is just behind the left front wheel housing, while the rear inlet is located on the bodywork behind the cockpit, again on the left-hand side of the car. This change in intake design actually resulted in a 4% reduction in aerodynamic drag compared to the Dieselmax. The exhaust exits are also clearly designed for minimal drag, with the front tailpipe on the right-hand side of the car, while the rear exhaust is mounted low down on the left-hand side of the car. Stopping the car is of course a major concern, particularly for its driver, and the car is fitted with a braking system taken from an ATR-72 passenger aircraft, as motorsport braking systems were found to not be able to cope with the sizing and thermal demands of the car, and ducting the brakes would have cost too much drag. Two parachutes are also fitted and are the primary deceleration tool, and that's kind of forced by the regulations as well, but the wheel brakes can actually stop the car from its maximum speed in the event of a parachute failure. So how fast can this car really go? Well, before we get into that, it's worth noting that Buckeye Bullet 2 from Ohio is probably one mark for the car to exceed. It hit 487 kph with a hydrogen fuel cell, about 303 mph. But actually, that's not really the main focus of the team. The stated target for JCB is to exceed the Dieselmax record of 350 miles an hour, which would meet the aim of the project to show that the hydrogen engine from JCB is a match for their diesel engines. But it's clear from the team and their comments both on and off the record and the design of the car that it wants to go significantly faster. And while the team refuses to put a number on anything externally, there are some clear clues to look at. The new car is lighter and has lower drag, and it has more power, so that alone says that it must be targeted at a higher speed than the previous car achieved. And let's not forget that the 350 mph speed of the Dieselmax car was limited by the tyres and not by its pure performance. And it's clear that the new tyres will allow the car to go significantly faster than Dieselmax ever did. And if they only just wanted to match or slightly beat the record of Dieselmax, the expense of developing new tyres capable of a lot more than 350 mph, well, what would be the point of that, if only 350 mph was the true target? So it's clear that the JCB staff are simply managing expectations, and when you push them on target speeds, they rightly pivot to discussing the salt conditions at Bonneville, which are admittedly very hard to predict. But if at the FIA running or at Speed Week there is a suitably long course and the conditions are good, then I think that 400 mph must surely be the target for the team. And if they exceed 400 mph, then surely the outright wheel-driven record of 458 mph must be a temptation. Will the car with its 1600 horsepower and the design it's got be capable of that? Seems a bit of a stretch, doesn't it? But we really don't know what it can do, and nor does JCB. So just how fast the JCB Hidromax is going to go is something we'll just have to wait and see. Testing is expected to start on the car at a UK military airbase not long after the publication of this video. And after that, the car is due to be shipped to Bonneville. So as ever on the Hidromax and its top speed, well, we'll have to get back to that. There is a nice little touch on the bodywork. The car's number 522, which the 522 are the digits you type to get JCB on a phone's keypad. AA, BFS are the engine and the SCTA class of the car. I only added that bit in because somebody asked me what that meant. If you've enjoyed this H2-fueled high-speed tale of a record-breaking car, or potentially record-breaking car, then don't forget to hit like and subscribe, as there's a lot more like this to come. For now though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon somewhere on the Salt Flats. Whatever condition they're in.